Your bath doesn't need hot water because it consumes electricity.
In the middle of winter. If I take a cold bath, my body will react strangely. Why would you do something so harsh?
People who don't earn money shouldn't act so high and mighty. It's wasteful to use electricity.
Despite the impending snow outside, my mother-in-law unilaterally turns off the water heater during my bath. I'm in the final month of pregnancy, living with daily tension, yet she pays no heed. My patience has reached its limit. Just then, I receive a call from the hospital.
Your mother-in-law was in a traffic accident.
Since the accident, my mother-in-law requires care. Well, it's time to repay her for all the trouble she's caused me. I'm a 29-year-old living in my in-laws' house. Alongside my 66-year-old mother-in-law and husband, my late father-in-law having passed away, we form a household of 3. My husband works in a regular IT company, and since we don't pay rent, we lead a reasonably comfortable life. Our relationship with my mother-in-law was decent, and overall, there was nothing to complain about. However, a turning point arrived about a year after moving into my in-laws' home.
The company's performance is in dire straits. I've been selected as a potential candidate for layoffs. I need to find a new job.
What? Is that true? We did experience a salary cut recently, but I didn't realize it was this serious.
Yeah, it's really inconvenient. I apologize. I'll start looking for work immediately. But until then, I need your help too.
Suddenly faced with my husband's impending layoff, I could only support him. Thankfully, we had savings, so during this period, I planned to take up part-time work to assist him. The day after my husband's layoff discussion, while browsing job listings online, I noticed something odd. I hadn't had my period. Could it be? I took a test, and to my surprise, I was pregnant. It seems I'm pregnant.
Really? The timing is a bit unexpected, but it's genuinely wonderful news.
Until my husband secured a new job, I had promised to work part-time. However, with the pregnancy, that plan needed adjustment. Still, both of us were overjoyed, and we vowed to do our best for our child. I tightened our budget, minimized expenses, and began studying how to raise our future baby. About a month into this new life, I had just finished lunch and was resting in the living room when my mother-in-law called me.
What are you doing? Haven't you finished your chores?
Oh, I apologize. I've been busy since morning, and I thought I'd take a short break.
Even though you're a housewife, breaks are out of the question. What nerve do you have to say such audacious things? How can you slack off when you're supported even without earning money?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. Despite my morning activities and the considerable size of our house, I was physically exhausted. I simply wanted a brief rest after lunch, but my mother-in-law wouldn't allow it.
Even when you're resting, my son is working. Who do you think you are? Housewives can get away with anything, knowing they'll be taken care of.
I apologize. It wasn't my intention.
If you have time to make excuses, start your chores promptly. And although your belly isn't large yet, remember that I won't tolerate you using pregnancy as an excuse to slack off.
Huh?
There are plenty of daughters-in-law like you in the world. Those who think that just because they're pregnant, they can rely on their mother-in-law for help with household chores. Well, we're not that lenient. Whether you're pregnant or a full-time housewife, You have a responsibility to handle the household tasks. Make sure you understand that.
My husband gets lunch breaks, but unlike him, I have to manage household chores until late at night. Cooking dinner, doing the dishes afterward, waking up an hour before my husband leaves the house the next day to prepare his lunchbox. All part of my routine. Being a full-time housewife is more labor-intensive than my mother-in-law realizes, especially considering I'm pregnant and sometimes suffer from morning sickness. Yet, she dismisses it all with a single word: dependence. Not only does she fail to support me, but she treats me as an adversary. As my husband begins his serious job search, we need to tighten our budget. My mother-in-law is well aware of this fact, and I suspect it's causing her stress. But taking it out on me isn't fair. Will I continue feeling like this until my husband finds a new job? The thought weighs heavily on me.
We're eating out tonight, so you don't need to cook dinner. Oh, but shouldn't a pregnant woman stay home?
Eating out.
Exactly. Since you're pregnant, it's better for you to stay home alone. It's for your own good.
I try not to let stress affect me too much, especially since it's detrimental during pregnancy, but everyday life keeps adding to the pressure. As time passes, I enter the final month of pregnancy.
I've just secured a job, but I might only be able to rush to your side during the birth. Let's do our best together.
Yes. With my husband's new job settled and our baby soon to arrive, we're about to embark on a happy life with our new addition. That's what I believed until one day. After finishing dinner cleanup and other household tasks, I headed to the bathroom. Taking a bath was my only chance to relax, a daily highlight. As I relaxed in the warm water, suddenly, the shower turned ice cold. What's happening? The day was bitterly cold, and even a brief cold shower left me shivering. Plus, the abrupt change from hot water to cold startled me. No matter how long I waited, there was no sign of the water warming up. I dried myself off, chilled, and headed to the living room. But the living room was already freezing, the heater had been turned off. I decided to head to the bedroom, but my mother-in-law stopped me.
When you take a bath, at least turn off the water heater. We can't afford wasteful electricity.
Huh?
Given how electricity costs are rising, try to save a little. You don't do housework. You don't work. Yet you keep spending money. Know your position.
Her words ignited anger within me. So, you're the one who turned off the water heater?
Yes, but isn't cold water sufficient for you? Using hot water is wasteful.
What temperature do you think it is today? If you take a cold shower, you'll get sick. Don't you understand that?
I've told you this so many times. Are you working and earning money? Lately, you hardly do any household chores because of your pregnancy. A person like that doesn't have the right to use warm water, don't you think? I said it earlier, but you need to be more aware of your own position.
Certainly, I don't work, so I'm not earning money. It's true that my husband has been actively helping with household chores lately, so from my mother-in-law's perspective, it might seem like I'm just spending money without doing anything. However, being pregnant is no small matter. As someone about to give birth, I can't continue doing physically demanding household tasks. Besides, if she's going to blame me, what about her own situation? My husband pays for our living expenses, and he's the one who helps with chores when he's done with work. Instead of constantly blaming others, maybe she should consider her own position? Even if I weren't pregnant, It's absurd to take a cold shower during such chilly weather. I'm in my final month of pregnancy, and it wouldn't be surprising if the baby arrived any moment. What are you thinking? You know this is your grandchild too, right?
Using the pregnancy as an excuse to slack off on household chores and live comfortably annoys me. You're being supported by my son, aren't you?
Well, with all due respect, isn't that the same for you?
I'm family. You're just someone who got married. Originally, you were a complete stranger, right? You're relying on my son, who is essentially a stranger, for support. Don't you think we're in the same position?
Does she believe that being family means everything should be done for her? While her logic infuriates me, I can't remain silent any longer. On that day, feeling as though I might freeze, I quickly returned to the bedroom to focus on warming up my body. Even though I was inside with the heater on, it took quite a while for my body to feel warm. Not only was I under mental stress, but my body was also bearing a significant burden, and I worried about catching a cold. Despite knowing that there was no use worrying, the anxiety persisted. In the end, due to the cold and anxiety, I couldn't sleep well that night, and morning arrived. And on that morning, I decided to discuss everything with my husband when he returned from work. I watched him leave, thinking about sharing my concerns with him. My mother-in-law had already left for the day, so I had some time to rest alone. Suddenly, my phone rang. Hello.
Hello, your mother-in-law was involved in a traffic accident. She's currently being transported to the hospital by ambulance. Please come to the hospital urgently.
What? I was taken aback by the sudden call but immediately headed to the hospital. Apparently, my mother-in-law had run across the pedestrian crossing against a red light and was hit by a car. Fortunately, the car wasn't speeding, so my mother-in-law remained conscious. Emergency surgery was necessary. As I waited in the waiting room, my husband arrived, and we both hoped for her safety. A few hours later, the doctor reported that the surgery was successful, and she was conscious. While relieved that her life wasn't in danger, it didn't excuse everything that had happened.
Mom! Are you okay?
Sorry for coming. It's the worst. I might have to live in the hospital from now on. Why do I have to go through this at my age? I'll make sure to get compensation from the other party.
Well, based on what I've heard, it seems like you might be at fault. That area has poor visibility, and darting across against a red light without checking is hardly a reasonable decision.
What? How dare you say that? You're underestimating me. I'm the one who's seriously injured here. Don't mess with me.
Despite having just undergone surgery, she could still raise her voice so loudly, indicating that her condition wasn't critical. While I worried needlessly, I tried to ignore my mother-in-law's angry outburst. Then my husband interrupted, seemingly cutting off my mother-in-law.
By the way, I don't know about the hospital stay, but you should start looking for a new place before you're discharged.
Huh?
We've decided to sell the family home, and we're moving too. So, you should find a new place as well.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by selling the family home?
Due to inheritance taxes and such, I inherited the family home. So whether we sell it or renovate it, it's within my authority. I don't want to continue supporting someone who disrespects a pregnant woman. I'm cutting ties with you.
My mother-in-law's eyes widened, and she froze at my husband's words. She had always been berated as the victim, so she probably never expected my husband to take my side. Ignoring her reaction, my husband continued.
Honestly, it's impossible to live with someone who bullies a pregnant woman. I need to protect my own family, so you should figure out your own life.
Wait! Even if you suddenly say that, it's obvious. They said there's a possibility of lingering paralysis. What if I can't live alone? Who else will take care of me besides you two?
Why did you selfishly act when you needed help? Isn't that your doing? So why should we be responsible for your well-being? As I echoed my husband's words, I noticed my mother-in-law's expression growing worse. She had brought this upon herself, and we had no intention of extending a helping hand. I packed up our belongings from the family home and moved to our new place. My mother-in-law ended up spending a month in the hospital, and afterward, she was confined to a wheelchair. Severe paralysis in her legs meant she wouldn't be able to walk independently. On the day of her discharge, as expected, both my husband's and my phones received a call.
Hello? We're supposed to have cut ties, right? So why are you calling? Could it be that you've developed dementia and can't understand what I said?
How dare you speak to your own mother like that? And making such audacious claims. I heard everything. Is it true that you sold the family home?
It's my property, so what I do with it is my business.
Where are you both now? If you don't tell me your address, I won't have anywhere to go. Besides, I'm in a wheelchair, so I can't manage alone.
Since we had completely ignored my wheelchair-bound mother-in-law, she was helpless on her own. But as I'd said repeatedly, we had no intention of extending any help. She had targeted me with relentless harassment. Such behavior was unforgivable. Considering her past actions, it was wrong to seek assistance only when it suited her convenience. There was no room for such selfishness.
Listen, we talked about cutting ties, right? Well, if you plan to stay involved any further, I'll settle everything from the past properly. The numerous instances of mistreatment and emotional abuse you've put her through, I could sue for that, you know?
Huh?
You'd better understand your position a bit more. Besides, we're now a family of 3, happily living with our newborn child. Don't interfere anymore.
My husband spoke to my mother-in-law in a matter-of-fact tone. She seemed quite shaken, probably never expecting my husband to turn against her. But she was desperate, trying everything to gain our acceptance.
Congratulations on the baby! I'd like to meet my grandchild, and from now on, I'll reflect on my past mistakes.
Someone who can't treat a pregnant woman well won't be able to care for a small child. Anyway, I've done some research for you. How about a nursing home or care facility? I'll send you that information. Goodbye.
Wait! Don't abandon me like this.
She seemed to want to say something until the very end, but I didn't listen. After hanging up on my mother-in-law, my husband promptly deleted all her contact information, including phone numbers and email addresses. Of course, we hadn't informed her of our new address, and since we'd sold the family home, she couldn't return there either. My mother-in-law appeared lost, but we left her to it. Subsequently, unable to live alone and with no place to sleep, she ended up in a care facility. Due to her significant fault in the accident, darting across against a red light, the insurance company provided minimal compensation. All of it went toward her care facility fees. She now spends her days stressed out, relying on caregivers who are essentially strangers. The facility staff already consider her problematic, so it won't be long before she's asked to leave. Proud and fond of belittling others through her mistreatment, my mother-in-law couldn't bear her current situation. The stress took a toll, and she lost a significant amount of weight. But I felt no pity for her. It was all self-inflicted. We were blameless. Restricted to a wheelchair, she needed assistance with daily tasks like using the bathroom and bathing. While the care facility staff tried their best, they had their hands full with her. She had no privacy left in her life. Despite their efforts, she was the facility's biggest troublemaker. In contrast, I live a happy life with my healthy newborn son and kind husband. We used the money from selling the family home as a down payment to buy our own house. Unlike my mother-in-law, who lost everything, I gained a family, a home, and happiness. I know there will be challenges raising our child, but I'm not alone. We'll face them together as a family.
How did you like this story? If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you in the next video.